Magandang araw sa inyong lahat. So again, welcome to our subjects. And for today, we are about to discuss the cash to accrual accounting. So this is your instructor, Noel Bergonia. So just sit back, relax, take down notes. And if you do have questions, please let me know on our respective chat boxes or even you can comment on this video. Okay, so ayan po, let's start our discussion for cash to accrual accounting. Okay, so if you have remembered, nung kayo po ay nag-discuss ng IAS number 1 or presentation of financial statements, no, in paragraph number 27, it was stated there that the entities should prepare their financial statements. Okay, so we have various financial statements except the statement of cash flows, no, using the accrual basis of accounting so that we can comply with the accounting standards. We need to present our financial statements using accrual basis of accounting. Somehow, other entities, okay, are not using accrual basis of accounting, but they do want to report their financial statement. Okay, they need to convert it to accrual basis. So yan po yung i-discuss natin ngayon, no? So how to convert a cash accounting record to an accrual basis, okay, accounting, no, which was prescribed by IAS number 1 na basis in the preparation of financial statements. Okay, so let us again define and differentiate accrual basis and cash basis of accounting. Okay, so in the accrual basis of accounting, if you have remembered, no, since you have started discussing accounting in your senior high school or in FAR 1, okay, so you have defined in the accrual basis, no, that the income, okay, the income is recognized when it is earned. Okay, so when can we say that an income is earned? Of course, it could be either the services have been performed or the goods have been delivered. And take note, regardless when the cash is received. So wala na pong, we do not, no, consider the cash flows here because we look into when thus the income is being earned. Okay. While in terms of expenses under accrual basis, so the expenses are being recognized, okay, once it is incurred. So kailan ba natin masasabi na incurred po yung ating isang expense item? So it was already being used or expired. Di po ba? Regardless when the cash is being paid. Okay? So ganun po tayo sa accrual basis of accounting. On the other hand, no, we are using cash basis of accounting if, okay, our income was only recognized when the cash is being received. So regardless po kung kailan na-earned yung particular income. And also, expenses naman are recognized once it is paid. Okay, so regardless when it is being incurred. So in this scenario, no, as you can see, we have actually a different world for accrual basis and cash basis. Kasi again, no, it's more on inflows and outflows of cash for cash basis, while for the accrual basis, it's more on the occurrence. Okay? So, ayan po, no, we need to reconcile or transform the cash basis record natin to accrual basis to comply with IS number 1. So another with regards to the differences between the two basis po natin of accounting, okay? Under cash basis, since we are just looking into the inflows and outflows of cash, we do not typically recognize in our accounting record the receivables, the payables, okay, the accrued income, deferred income, accrued expenses, and prepaid expenses. Kung mapapansin po ninyo, itong mga accounts na to are accounts which actually arises typically with the adjusting entries. Hindi po ba? So, adjusting entries for accrued revenues, okay, accrued expenses, then we have also deferred as well as prepaid expenses. Okay? While in our accrual basis of accounting, no, which is actually the cause why we have adjusting entries in the basic accounting, no, we recognize these accounts. Okay? So, ayan po, no? So, typically pag cash basis lang, somehow monitoring, pero hindi po siya ina-account in our accounting record. Okay? So compared with the accrual basis. So why are companies using cash basis instead of accrual basis directly? So let's now discuss the advantages and somehow challenges with regards to the use of this accrual basis and cash basis of accounting. So in terms of advantages, pag gumamit po tayo ng cash basis, it is actually an easier method for smaller entities. So if you put yourselves, let's say for example, in a small grocery store or a small entity, okay, so wherein the inflows and outflows of cash are easily accounted for. Okay, then for them, it is easier to use cash basis. And ayun nga, primarily, they conduct their business in cash. Okay? While when we talk about accrual basis naman po, its advantage is more on providing more information, okay, about the income and expenses dahil na nga po sa we recognize income or expenses based on occurrence rather than the inflows or outflows of cash. And it is mostly the appropriate, okay, or the more accurate measurement, okay, of our net income or loss, based in our existing accounting standards. However, even though these two are beneficial for some or all of the entities, so it has also challenges. Okay, so with regards to cash basis, it provides a misleading financial picture about the company because nga po of not recording or recognizing those not related to um, not paid or even not received na amounts. Okay, so they forgot to recognize any unpaid expenses or even the outstanding receivables because we do not recognize them under cash basis. But for accrual basis on the other hand, okay, so it's just like your love life, charot kung meron ka nun, joke lang ah. So it's more complicated and expensive method. Complicated in the sense that we need to incorporate every accounting standard that you have already studied and to be studied pa lang po in various subjects, okay, because they need to comply with accrual basis. Okay, and also expensive siya in the sense that in terms of monitoring, of course, um, just like what we have discussed in conceptual framework before, cost is a constraints, di po ba, in preparing the financial statement. So typically, ayan, it causes us to have more expenses to be incurred in lining our financial statements to accrual basis. And also, um, even though we are using accrual basis, we tend also to monitor the cash position or cash flows of the entity via the use of the preparation of the statement of cash flows. Okay, so even though there are advantages and challenges that these two methods are being kumbaga encountered, then in conclusion, kailangan pa rin talaga natin na mag-present ng financial statements, especially for those listed in um, the stock exchange, okay, using the accrual basis. Okay? So, ayan. Ngayon po, again, ang pag-aaralan natin is more on later the conversion of a cash basis, okay, recording to an accrual basis. Okay? So, itong cash basis na to class, okay, kanina nabanggit natin, di ba, that the expenses needs to be paid. Okay, and then your income or revenues needs to be received. Okay, so if that is only your point of view, this is actually a pure cash basis. Okay, anong pure cash basis, sir? So lahat lang ay related sa inflows and outflows, okay, to be recorded, okay, as income and expenses for cash basis. But on the other hand, there is also another type of cash basis, which is what we so-called modified cash basis. Okay, so in the modified cash basis, this is actually a mixture of cash basis and accrual basis. And typically companies are using this modified cash basis rather than the pure cash basis. Okay, so in this scheme, the revenues are recorded, okay, in the period when the cash is being received. Okay, so ganun pa rin. Based on the definition kanina, we record revenues once it is received. But, ito, expenditures having a benefit of more than one period are being capitalized as asset. So hindi po lahat ng cash being paid matic expenses, no? If you're going to look into that assets benefit or that expenditure benefit, no, if it is more than 1 year, then you can capitalize it. So this is actually referring to more likely somehow yung mga property, plant, and equipment and intangible assets natin that they can be used for more than 1 year period. Okay, so they will be subjected to depreciation, of course, or amortization. Okay, pero yung mga within 1 year lang, yung kanilang benefits, then automatically they are charging it directly to expenses. Okay, and then just like what we have defined kanina under cash basis, no, any accrued expenses are not being recognized because we are just recording all of the expenditures once they are being paid. Okay, so ayan po, no, companies are more likely to use modified cash basis. Okay, so let's try to again distinguish cash and accrual basis in terms naman po of some accounts, no, that we will be computing later. Okay? So first of which is all about sales. So pag pinag-usapan natin yung cash basis, okay, so the sales under cash basis would include the cash sales po natin and the collections of trade receivables. Collections lang po. Okay? Sir, bakit tawag dito may trade receivables? Eh di ba walang receivables under cash basis? Typically they monitor pero they do not record, but the collection of course of those receivables will be an inflow to us. So that means it will become an income or sales in this case, no, under cash basis. But for accrual basis, we have the cash sales plus sales on account. Okay, so mamaya now we will try to convert a sales under cash basis to accrual basis sales po natin. Okay, then another would be about purchases. Okay, so sa purchases naman po, under cash basis, it includes the cash purchases, okay, plus any payment to the trade creditors. Okay, so payment lang po. While under accrual basis, we have the cash purchases plus any purchases on account. So by the way, before I proceed, no, dito sa accrual basis sales kanina, may sales on accounts, which give rise actually to a receivable, hindi po ba? So we tend to record receivables. Sorry po, pagpasensya niyo na po yung sulat ko ha. Okay, so ayan, receivables, and then for purchases naman, since we have purchases on account, it would give rise to payable naman. Okay, so ayan, under accrual basis, gaya nga ng nabanggit kanina, we record receivables and payables. Okay, with regards naman po to other income, just like what we have mentioned kanina, no, for cash basis, okay, you need to recognize it once the amount is being received, while under accrual basis, once the amount was being earned. Under expenses naman, again, no, reiteration lang po ito, okay, cash basis would be recognizing expenses, no, once the amount is being paid, while accrual basis is once it is being incurred. Okay? Then we have depreciation naman po. Okay, so dun sa cash basis, medyo ano tayo dito, no? Mapapansin niyo, depreciation is provided normally. This is only applicable if the company is using the modified cash basis. Diba? Sa modified cash basis, we classify those more than 1 year yung benefit as an asset to be capitalized. So pag kinapitalize yon, then it could be depreciated, no? Yun yung para sa modified. Pero kung pure cash basis po yan, no, na hindi tayo nag-recognize ng capitalizable asset, then we will not have any depreciation under cash basis. Okay? Pero again, just mentioned a while ago sa inyo na most of the companies are using modified cash basis, then kay malamang ito yung gagamitin that depreciation are usually provided normally. So depende na rin yon sa kung ano pong depreciation method yung gamit ng company. So whether reminder lang natin, we have straight line, double declining, sum of the years, units of outputs, and the like. Okay, ganun din po sa accrual basis. Okay, sa accrual basis, matic yan. Kapag na-capitalize and depreciable yung asset, then subject to depreciation. Or in terms of intangible asset, amortized naman po siya. Okay? Then lastly, no, we have bad debts. Okay, so our doubtful accounts for cash basis, since we do not recognize trade receivables in our books, now there will be no bad debts. Okay, but under accrual basis, no, we need to recognize doubtful accounts, no. Okay, based on our bad debts. Okay, so we have two methods. Um, discussed in your previous subjects, such as the direct write-off method or the allowance method, on which the allowance method is the most commonly used method for recognizing the doubtful accounts. Tapos meron pa yan aging of receivables or outstanding balance method. Okay? So ayan. Any questions or clarifications, class, before we proceed? All right. So I hope na nakikinig ka pa po, ha. So again, pag may questions ka, please let me know lang po. Okay? Don't forget to take down notes, ha. Okay. Sige. So to give you an overall overview of accrual and cash basis, no, and their differences in terms of the preparation of our financial statements, no. So let me give you this example. Okay, so wag kang gutumin, ha. We have some GUP contractor signs an agreement to construct a garage for 220,000. Okay, so that's the agreement. Now in January, some GUP begins construction and incurs costs of 180,000 on credit. So on credit, ha. And then by the end of January, delivers a finished garage to the buyer. Okay, so in terms of our point of view under accrual basis, di ba? So since we have already delivered, okay, or finished the project, no? Or the garage, no? So we need already to recognize an income, di ba? Kasi na i-deliver na po. While in terms of expenses naman, okay, even though it is on credit, now we have incurred it in January. Okay, but okay, to continue with the data, in February, some group collects 220,000 cash from customers. So magkaiba yung date ng inflows and outflows natin. Okay, and in March, some group pays 180,000 due to the creditors. Okay, so just to give you an example of an income statement, no, prepared under cash basis. So in the month of January, so wala po tayong any cash receipts, okay? Because that's for February. And then wala rin tayong cash payments during January. So in the month of January for the interim reporting purposes, no, so we will not have any net income or loss during January, okay, for the cash basis. Well, for February, we have only collected 220,000. Assuming that ito lang yung transaction ni Samgyup, no, so it has a net income of 220,000, no, on the month of February. While on the month of March, no, we did not receive anything na po, but we have paid our incurred cost, no, na 180,000. So at that time pa lang po ni-recognize under cash basis yung expenses. Thus, we have a net loss for the month of March amounting to 180,000. Okay? In totality, no, as you can see, no, we have a net income of 40,000. Okay? That's over the 3 months period. On the other hand, no, let's try to take a look once we prepared the financial statement of Samgyup using the accrual basis. Okay, so in the month of January pa lang, we have already recognized the revenue. Bakit? Kasi we have already, again, earned it via delivering the finished garage. Then in terms of expenses, sabi natin under accrual basis, recognize mo ang expenses once it is incurred. So since incurred siya in January, then it will become an expense in January. So it means that the net income for the month of January, unlike with the cash basis na zero, okay, for accrual basis, we have 40,000 na po. And then for the month of February and March, since we did not have any earned or even incurred amounts here, thus the income or loss is zero. And in totality, now we have also 40,000. Okay, so see the difference between the two. All right. Okay, so before I leave this problem, no, I just want to point out lang po that even though the accrual and cash basis have different period when they are going to recognize the income or even the expenses, no, if tinanong kayo sa theory, no, so ano yung possibility dito? Okay, the possibility here is that, okay, throughout the life of the company, no, the net income or net loss under cash basis will be equal to the accrual basis. Okay? Okay, not necessarily na per year or per month parehas sila, but in totality, if you look it into the long run, na they will have the same. Just like what you can see here in our problem, no? In the 3 months period, na kahit magkakaiba sila every month ng recognition of the expenses and income, na in the 3 months period totality, they have the same net income of 40,000. Okay? Just in case lang na matanong kayo sa theory. Okay? So are we clear on that? All right, very good. Okay, so that's our introduction. Introduction pa lang yan, sir. Yes, no? Pero we're now going there already, no? So we are to convert the cash basis to accrual basis record po natin. Okay, so in terms of conversion po, no, so we need only to recognize, no, kung ano po yung mga hindi na record, no, in the previous na ginamit natin na cash basis na kailangang i-record under accrual basis. So now let's talk about conversion na po of the cash basis to accrual basis. So I will be sharing to you some formula, but again, we are not here to memorize the formula, but rather to understand them. Okay, so let's try to explain bakit po naka-add or minus itong mga amounts na to. So let's start with converting, no, a cash inflow or a cash receipt representing a revenue under cash basis to an accrual basis revenue which is earned. Okay? So we have cash receipts now representing our revenue. Okay? And if you have any accrued revenues, okay? So ano ba yung accrued revenues? If you have remembered your basic accounting, accrued revenues are revenues that was being earned already. So na-earned na po siya, but the cash was not yet received. Okay? So if you have accrued revenue at the start of the period, so beginning yan, so kailan nanggaling? Or sorry, saan nanggaling accrued revenue na yan? Hindi ba last year? Okay, last year pa nanggaling yan. So pag tinanong kita, kung pupuntahan natin accrual basis, okay, kailan ni-recognize yung income or revenue nitong beginning of the period na to? The answer would be last year. Okay, the income was recognized last year. Pero kailan na nakolekta yan? Sa tingin mo, kailan nakolekta yung accrued revenue of the beginning of the period? It was collected during the current year. So in that case, sumama siya dito sa cash receipts. Tanong, in terms of matching principle or the timing po natin, no, kailangan ba siyang maging revenue for this year? Since last year pa siya income? Ang sagot of course is hindi. So that's the reason why we are deducting the beginning of the period accrued revenue which we have already recognized its revenue kung accrual basis sana ang ginamit last time, no, in the previous period. But we have collected it kaya sumama siya sa cash receipts po natin during the current period. Okay? I hope that that clears bakit po nakadeduct yung accrued revenue beginning. In addition, we have accrued revenue, no, at the end of the period. So have we already recognized this revenue under cash basis? Ang sagot, hindi pa. So dahil accrued revenue yan, or actually that's a receivable, di ba? So hindi pa siya sumama sa cash receipt, but it represents an income during the year that was not yet collected. So that's why in reconciling from cash basis to accrual basis, we need to add that value. Okay? Then, aside from the accrued revenues, we have also the unearned revenues. Okay, so the unearned revenues are revenues or amounts that are collected in advance, but they are not yet earned. Diba? Nakolekta na, pero hindi mo pa nade-deliver yung goods or napo-perform yung services. Okay, so if it is an unearned revenue on the beginning of the period, okay, kailan mo nakolekta yan? The collection happens, of course, kailan? Collection happens last year. Okay, last year. Kailan mo kikitain or kailan mo ma-earned yan? The answer would be, of course, during the year. Diba? So, expected that this unearned at the beginning of the period can be earned during the year. That's why it will be added. Since once earned during the year, it will become a revenue under accrual basis. On the other hand, if we have an unearned revenue at the end of the period, it was just being collected during the year, but of course, the timing of its recognition as revenue will be the following year pa. Okay, so dahil sumama yan sa collections during the year, okay, and was not yet earned during the year, okay, it will be deducted. Okay, so after considering those, then we have now the revenue under accrual basis po natin. Okay, so I hope that that is clear. Again, if you do have questions, please let me know. Okay, so in terms naman of expenses, okay, so sa cash basis, again, kanina ang expenses natin will be recognized once there is a cash payment. Okay, so the cash payment represents expenses under cash basis, and we have, okay, in the reconciliation or transforming it to the expense under accrual basis, no, consider the accrued expenses and prepaid expenses. So let's start with the accrued expenses. So ang accrued expenses, if you have remembered, these are expenses incurred but not yet paid. Okay, so if it is an accrued expense of the beginning of the period, just like what we have in the um, higher higher part, upper part, no. So this was an expense recognized last year, supposed to be under accrual basis. Okay, but kailan po nabayaran yan? Of course, during the current year. So binayaran niyang beginning accrued expense na yan during the current year, but under accrual basis, it is not an expense during the current period. So that's why we are deducting that amount from our cash payments for the expense under accrual basis. In addition, no, we have accrued expenses at the end of the period. So, na-incur natin siya during the current year but not yet paid. So, wala pa siya sa cash payment. So, under accrual basis, it would be added. Okay? Then under prepaid expenses, so prepaid expenses at the beginning of the period was already being paid last year, di ba? Kasi prepaid expenses are payment in advance but not yet incurred, such as supplies, no, mga prepaid insurance and the likes, no? So last year nabayaran. Okay, so wala pa siya sa cash payment this year, but it was incurred already during the current period, so it will become an expense under accrual basis. But for the prepaid expenses at the end of the period, which was expected to be paid pa lang during the current year, but to be incurred next year, so what will happen is it should reduce our cash payment kasi ang expense niyan under accrual basis needs to be recognized next year pa. Okay, so here is now our expenses under accrual basis. Okay? So I hope that this helps, no? So possible na pwedeng baliktarin yan in terms of problems sa mga examinations ninyo, no? So from revenue under accrual basis going to cash receipts or cash basis na revenue natin, or expenses under accrual to cash payments, or baka hanapin po yung mga ilan dyan. So again, you can memorize it, but again, no, it's easier for us to understand bakit siya naka-add or minus. Okay? So, pag may questions kayo, please let me know lang po sa ating respective chat boxes. Alright, so very good. I hope nagising ka pa. Ngumiti ka naman dyan. So, if pagod ka na, stop mo lang muna konti, then continue, no, watching this lecture. Okay? Laban lang. Okay, so let me continue, no, our conversion of cash to accrual basis. So ngayon naman, specific account po tayo. Okay, bago tayo mag-proceed sa mga ilang mga examples. Okay, so let's talk about receivables, no? Okay, so here is the typical T account of your receivable. Okay, so you have the beginning balance, okay, of either account receivable or notes receivable. Okay, then you have, of course, the sales on account. Okay, and your sales on account would be, gaya ng sinabi natin kanina, would be part of the sales under accrual basis. Okay, and then if you have recovery, Okay, so kung babalikan natin ang inyong discussion about recovery of previous written off account, so anong journal entry niyan? 'Di ba pag recovery, bubuhayin mo yung ni-write off mo. So you debit accounts receivable, okay? And credit allowance if you used um, the allowance method. So allowance for doubtful accounts, okay? And then pag recovery, okay, then you have also the collection. So that would be debit to cash, credit to accounts receivable. Di po ba? Or ayan. So for the recovery, since na-debit po yung AR, then nasa debit po yan. Okay? Now, with regards to cash collections, okay, so the cash collections po natin, okay, would be the cash basis na inflow po natin. Okay? Ayan, may 2 asterisks pala, sorry, dun sa recovery. So kung titignan ko, no, it includes in the analysis only if collection included the said recovery. So kanina sa journal entry, nag-debit cash kasi tayo, credit accounts receivable. So yung credit to accounts receivable, ito po yung nire-represent ng cash collection. So dapat kasama po yan, amount na yan, no? Okay, so that we can add here the recovery. Kasi pag wala po yung recovery dito or sinabi sa problem, the cash collection does not includes the recovery, then dito po sa debit side, no need for you to add it kasi again, this is only offsetting din naman lang po. Okay? Pero pag meron po dito sa collections, then kailangan ilagay mo sa debit side yung recovery. Okay? So I hope that that is clear. Then also on the credit side, we have the sales discount. Okay, and then we have the sales returns. Okay, so sa sales returns po, please take note class, this is a T account for receivables, so please do not include any sales returns that was being refunded. So it means that the sales return was with the partner in the journal entry na cash. Okay, so pag cash kasi or debit tayo ng sales returns and allowances, credit to cash, hindi siya dadaan dito sa ating receivables T account. Okay? Sales allowances, which is partner din ng sales returns, and the write-off. So pag nag-write-off tayo, kung naalala ninyo, that's debit allowance for doubtful accounts if you are using allowance method, or expense if you are using direct write-off method, and then your credit accounts receivable. So bakit natin pinag-aaralan tong T account na to? So you can use this tool, no, sometimes in recognizing how much is the accrual basis revenue or even the cash basis revenue. Okay? So ayan po, kasi nandito yung sales on account natin at saka yung cash collections po natin. Okay? And also sometimes you will be asked of the gross sales then. So the gross sales here is actually your sales on account. Okay? Gross sales under accrual basis. Okay. So in terms of formula, no, I have just summarized it. Okay? Pag tinanong kayo ng total gross sales, okay? Total gross sales. So just in case na meron po kayong cash sales, then that would be your starting point. Okay, sir, wala siya dun sa T account ng receivables? Yes, because that is a debit to cash, 'di ba? Credit to sales. And then with regards to credit sales, so yun po yung sales on account kanina. So you have the collections, the ending receivable balance, the account written off, plus the sales returns and allowances, the cash discount or the sales discount natin, less the accounts receivable beginning balance. Okay. Sir, bakit dito sa formula mo, wala pong nakalagay na recovery? Okay. If you want the recovery, again, please take note na dapat kasama siya sa collection, yung recovery, and then saka lang natin ilalagay dito na may recovery. And the recovery will be deducted as well here. Okay, pero just in case na sinabi dito sa collections, hindi naman kasama yung recovery, then wag mo nang tawag dito, ilagay din as deduction since, 'di ba, offsetting lang naman yung values na yon. Okay? So I hope that that is clear to you. Now, of course, once you have computed the credit sales, then add it with the cash sales. That's the time we're in. You can compute now the gross sales. Okay, the gross sales, of course, under accrual basis. Very good, no? Pero kung ito po ay cash basis, pag tinanong ka, how much is the cash basis gross sales? So that would be your cash sales plus your collections, of course. Okay? So sir, gross sales yan. Paano pag tinanong po ako ng net sales? So simple lang. Compute the gross sales. Pag net sales ang tinanong, edi minus mo yung sales discount at saka yung sales returns and allowances. Ayan, very good, no? So that would be equal to your net sales. Okay? All right. So I hope that that is clear to you. So let's start now, okay, discussing some problems. Okay, so let's start with example number one. Okay, so the following information are data from the books of Shanghai Corporation in 2021. So you have the beginning and ending accounts receivables. You have the trade notes receivables. Ayun pala class, for it to be part of your sales on accounts, of course, it should be a trade note receivable, no? Kasi minsan baka mamaya sabihin sa problem, the note receivable came from, let's say for example, a loan. Okay, so hindi siya related to trade natin. Okay, thus that would be not part of the computation of your sales. Okay? Then we have advances from customers. So kung nagwa-wonder kayo bakit ko nilagyan ng advances from customers dito, so this is actually representing what? Your advances from. So nag-advance si customer sa inyo. Okay? So ibig sabihin this will become an unearned revenue. Okay? 'Di ba kanina in the first part ng conversion, 'di ba I have mentioned the function of unearned revenue. Okay? So ayan po, no? Unearned revenues 'yan, beginning and ending. Then you have the sales returns, the sales discounts, um, uncollectible accounts written off during the year na 6,400. Then you have also the collections including the recovery of previously written off accounts. So kasama doon sa collections yung recovery na 10,000. So ang tinatanong po is how much is the actual accrual gross sales in 2021. So yun po yung kailangan nating sagutin dito sa example number 1. Okay, so here is our computation. So we start with the collections, of course, including the recovery. So you have two options. Pwede mong tanggalin yung recovery dyan. Okay, so that would be 881,200. Okay, then tatanggalin mo rin yung recovery dito mamaya, or you include it, then we have also the recovery here. Okay. So going back, no? So sinama ko na po sa computation, the collection including the recovery, okay, which is 891,200. Then remember, we have the receivables at the beginning, which means collected during the year but earned last year. So kabawasan yon sa collections natin to arrive on our accrual gross sales. And then our accounts receivable on December 31 was, of course, a receivable during the current year, okay, because of the sales, but not yet collected. So wala pa siya sa collection. So we tend to add it. Okay? Similar to the kumbaga computations with the accounts receivable. So we have also the trade notes receivable, no, na 336,000 deducted from the collections because it was recorded last year. Okay, and then the trade notes receivable on December 31 was a sale during the current year but not yet part of the collections, kaya inad po natin. On the other hand, with regards naman po sa advances from customers at the beginning of the period, so advances last year means we have collected it last year. But kailan natin na-deliver yung goods? Malamang this year. So it will be an additional sales under accrual basis. But the advances or collections within the year, which is the December 31, okay, ay sumama sa collections, but next year pa po natin i-record or ma-earn yan, kaya deduction po siya muna on our computation of the gross sales under accrual basis. Then the sales returns and allowances would be added back, okay? And then sales discount, okay, kasi gross sales nga po hinahanap natin. And then uncollectible accounts being written off. Okay, so i-add back din po natin. Okay, if you want, you can use the T-account approach. No? And then the recovery, since sinama po natin yung amount sa collections, will be deducted. Okay, so our gross sales under accrual basis for Shanghai Corporation, if they will be preparing the financial statement under accrual basis, would be 806,000. Okay, so very good. So just in case net sales po ang tanungin sa inyo, so ang gagawin nyo lang, just simply deduct the sales returns and allowances and sales discount. Sige nga, Paki-compute nga mga kapatid. Magkano po kung halimbawa ang tanong sa inyo ay net sales under accrual basis? Magkano po 'yun? So that's 806,000 minus 4,800 minus 1,600. Okay, so that would be 799,600. Okay, or kung sakali man na net sales na agad ang tanongin sa inyo, wag niyo nang ilagay dito yung sales returns and allowances and sales discount. Kaya lang natin siya in-add back kasi we are being asked of the gross sales. Okay? So are we clear on this class? Do you have any questions? Key in your questions in our respective chat boxes. All right, very good. Okay, so that's our first example. So next example po tayo. Okay, ngayon naman po, the question was actually under cash basis, no? How much is the net revenue to be reported for 2020? So cash basis naman po tayo. So kung cash basis revenue yan, it includes of course your cash sales. Okay, so sa cash sales natin, you have the gross sales at saka returns and allowances. So yung netto po niyan, that will be your cash sales. And then we need to derive the collections. Okay, so collections can be derived no using of course the credit sales. Okay, so your gross, the discount. Tapos on January 1, 2020 daw, the customers of owed Bibimbap 30,000. Okay, so this is the beginning receivable. And on December 31, 2020, customers owed Bibimbap, so that's the ending receivable na 20,000. The company uses direct write-off method for bad debts. No bad debts were recorded in 2020. Okay, so to derive our collections, okay, so unahin muna natin yung cash sales. So just simply deduct the 180 na gross sales with the returns and allowances. So we have a net cash sales na 166,000. Then with regards to the collection of credit sales, so you start with the 420,000 na gross sales, okay, minus the discount na 16,000, then add the beginning because that will be collected already, then less nyo yung 20,000 na ending balance. Okay? So our collections from credit sales is 414,000 and the net revenue being asked for cash basis is totaling 580,000. Okay? So are we clear on this? All right, very good. Okay, so yan muna pansamantala for our sales. Okay? So again, pag may questions kayo, please let me know. Okay. So ngayon naman po, after discussing about sales or revenues, okay, let's talk about naman po our purchases. Okay? So our purchases or even the cost of goods sold under accrual. So just like what we did kanina for receivables, so we start in analyzing again the T account for the payables no related to our purchase of merchandise or trading purposes ng mga payables. Okay, so we have the beginning balance, okay, on the credit side. And then if we have purchased it on account, of course, that will be part of our purchases under accrual basis. Okay, under the credit side, of course, kasi debit purchases, credit tayo ng accounts payable or notes payable doon. Then we have the cash payments. Okay, so debit payable yon. Okay, then we have also the purchase discounts para makuha yung gross, di ba? Kasi yung purchases on account dito, it was actually the gross amount. Okay, and then purchase returns will be on the debit side. Again, you are given that it should be excluding the refunds. Okay, kasi ang partner ulit nun was cash. Okay, and the purchase allowances. Okay? So, in summary of this, no, in computing our accrual basis, for example, purchases at saka cost of goods sold. So here's our formula. So we start with cash purchases. Okay, so our cash purchases is of course, remember, okay, that is not part of the T accounts presented a while ago. Okay, and then we have to compute naman yung ating purchases on account, actually payments. Okay? Payments po natin. So we have purchases on credit or on account, net of any returns, allowances, or discounts. Then we have the beginning payable. Okay, and then we have to add the beginning payable. Okay, bakit po natin i-add yung beginning payable? Because okay. So before I proceed, no, by the way, itong kinocompute pala natin dito, yung naka-present was the cost of goods sold under cash basis. Okay, so I am just showing you the cost of goods sold under cash basis, and then later I will be showing you naman the cost of goods sold under accrual basis. Okay, so continue ko lang. So we are computing first for the payment to suppliers. So yung ending natin will be deducted. So we have the payment to suppliers, okay, which if you have the T account, you can get it directly on the debit side. Okay, so the cash purchases plus the payment to suppliers, so that's the total payment of purchases. Okay, and then you add the beginning inventory minus the ending. So we have the cost of goods sold under cash basis. Okay? Pero kung pag-uusapan sana natin actually yung accrual basis, no, the formula of which would be yung cash purchases. Okay? The cash purchases, of course, net na po yan ng any discounts, ng uh, any returns. Okay? And then plus po tayo ng purchases on account. Okay? Yung purchases on account po natin. Okay? Or on credit. Okay? So net na po natin siya with the purchase returns and allowances and purchase discounts. Okay, so that's our net purchases. So as you have remembered, the net purchases plus the beginning inventory. So yun po yung cost of goods available for sale po natin. Then less po natin yung ating ending inventory. Then we will have now the cost of goods sold under accrual basis. Okay? So yung difference ng cost of goods sold um, natin under cash basis and accrual basis. Okay? So possible kasi na ipakompute sa inyo yun. Okay? Pero ang typical din naman would be sasabihin gross purchases under accrual or even the cost of goods sold under accrual basis. Okay? Sige, so let us now give examples, no, in the computation of transforming a cash basis record payment to suppliers, okay, to an accrual basis, no, na purchases or even cost of goods sold. Okay, so let's have example number 3, and you are asked to compute for the accrual gross purchases in 2021. Okay, so the following information are data from the books of Puto Corporation in 2021. Okay, so you have the payable beginning and ending. Okay, the notes payable that we can actually relate to trade. Okay, so unless sabihin po na ito ay from non-trade. Okay, so beginning and ending. Then we have also the advances to suppliers. So if you have remembered kanina, advances from customers was actually an unearned. Ito naman po, nag-advance tayo doon sa ating mga suppliers. So this is actually acting as prepayments. Okay, so pero since this is related to suppliers, then it will be part of our computations of the gross purchases later. Okay, the beginning and ending prepayments. Then we have the purchase returns and allowances, the purchase discount, at saka payment to suppliers. So since accrual basis ang tanong, so we start with the payments to suppliers na 1,200,000. And then we have our accounts payable at the beginning of the year. So remember that accounts payable at the beginning of the year will be paid in 2021. Diba? Binayaran siya during 2021. Sumama siya sa payments, but that's not relating to a purchase during the current year. So diniduct to get the accrual basis purchases. Okay, then the ending naman accounts payable was actually again 360,000 added kasi nga po it represents of course the ending na during the current year na pinurchase but not yet paid. So wala pa sa payments. Then similar to that will be the notes payable beginning, no, na diniduct po natin because it was paid during the year but does not relate to a purchase, okay, during the year. And then add naman po yung notes payable on December 31. Now, with regards po sa advances to suppliers or prepayments, 'di ba? So, in advance mo 'yan last year kaya siya naging beginning balance during 2021. Okay, and during 2021 you have used that advances, so additional purchase po natin 'yan. While the advances sa suppliers at the end of the period means it was being paid, so kasama siya sa payment, but they are not yet part of our purchases kasi next year pa po 'yan. Okay, so deduction. Then, since we are being asked of the gross purchases, so i-add back lang natin yung purchase returns and allowances at saka yung purchase discount. Kung sakali na net purchases dapat, okay, hindi na natin isasama sa computation itong returns and discounts. So the total gross purchases under accrual basis for the year 2021 is amounting to 1,077,600. Okay? So any questions or clarifications, again, please let me know. Okay, so that's the first part of this conversion from cash basis to accrual basis purchases. Next would be cost of goods sold naman po. You're being asked of how much is the accrual cost of goods sold in 2021. Okay, the following information are data from the books of Spaghetti Corporation in 2021. So you have the accounts payable, the inventory beginning and ending, the purchase returns and allowances, the discounts, the payment of accounts, the cash purchases, and also the freight in. So kung accrual cost of goods sold yan, we need the purchases. Okay, total purchases po natin, no? Using accrual basis. So we start with the payment. Okay, so for the payment, no, kailangan muna natin kasi makuha magkano po yung ating purchases on account, no? So the payment of accounts sa 650,000, you add back the purchase returns at saka purchase discount kasi we are looking for the gross. Okay, actually you can use the T account kanina for the payable. Okay, and then you add the ending balance, then minus the beginning. So that would be equal to our purchases on account. So the purchases on account po natin was 720,200. Then we have cash purchases given in the problem na 26,000, so add it. So we have now the total purchases under accrual basis na 746,200. Then, since we are asked of the cost of goods sold, you just simply total purchases yan. So, that's gross. Sir, bakit gross? Kasi naka-add back yung returns at saka discounts, di po ba? So, para makuha rin natin yung net purchases, kasi kailangan natin yung net purchases, di ba? Sir, dapat hindi na natin in-add. Pwede rin, hindi mo na i-add yung purchase returns and allowances and purchase discounts, no? Pero, again, it's not the purchases on account. That's the net purchases on account na po. Okay, so para lang po mai-systematize natin yung pag-compute, so we deduct the returns, the discount, tapos i-add nyo yung freight in. So you have now the net purchases of 747,500. Then add the beginning inventory minus the ending inventory. Then we will now have the accrual basis cost of goods sold amounting to 864,500. Okay? Okay, you can recheck this. Now you can pause for a while, then recheck the computation if tama po yan. And if you do have questions, please let me know. Okay? So are we clear on this, class? Going once? Going twice? All right, very good. Okay, so dyan po muna nagtatapos for the meantime yung from cash basis to accrual basis cost of goods sold and purchases. Okay, so we will have more examples of it in our synchronous discussion. Okay? So let us continue no in the various accounts naman po. So you have accrued revenues. Okay, so accrued revenues are revenues earned but not yet collected. So this is referring to malamang other than kanina na accounts receivables, no, any other receivable accounts. Okay, so you have the beginning balance in the debit, and pag tayo po ay nag-debit ulit noon, that would be the accrual recognized revenue. Okay, kasi debit receivable, credit revenue yan. Then pag collection naman po tayo, that will be representing of course the cash basis revenue. Okay, but in the situation natin, so it's actually debit to cash, credit to receivable. Okay, and we have the ending balance. Mamaya gagamitin natin to for some computations. We have also the unearned revenue, which is a liability, as you all know. Okay, so liability po siya, or yeah, liability. Okay, sorry for the spelling. Liability. Okay, so credit balance, okay, and then the collections, debit ng cash, credit ng unearned, okay, that's the cash basis na revenue. And then pag tayo ay nag-adjusting entry, so debit unearned, credit tayo ng revenue. So the debit to unearned would be accrual basis income po natin. We have also the prepaid expenses, expenses paid in advance but not yet incurred. Okay, so it's a debit balance account. No? Pag may payment po, debit prepaid, credit cash. So that's a cash basis payment. Okay, but debit side to the prepaid account. Then any expenditures, pag nag-adjust po tayo, so debit expense, credit ng prepaid. Okay, so that would be our accrual basis naman po na expense. Then lastly, for this the accounts, we have the accrued expenses. So accrued expenses are expenses incurred but not yet paid. So beginning balance. Okay, and then once we have incurred something, no, adjusting entry, so debit tayo ng expense, credit accrued revenue. So yung naka-credit dito was representing the expense under accrual basis. And pag nagbayad po, so debit ng accrued expense, credit tayo ng cash. So which is your payment naman representing the cash basis na expense. Okay? So I hope that these T accounts will help you in the future, no, in some of our computations. Okay? So to use some of this, no, so we have example number 5. So in example number 5, as you can see, you are being asked of how much is the rental revenue for 2021. Okay, so rental revenue for 2021, malamang it is asking for our what? Tignan natin. Jajamyun Incorporated owns an office building and leases the offices under 1-year rental agreement. Not all tenants make timely payments for their rent. So malamang there would be receivables. Okay, so Judge statement of financial position contain the following data. So you have, take note of the dates class 2020 and 21. So you have the rental receivables, so that's the accrued revenue, and then unearned rentals, no, for the 2020 and 2021. Now, during 2021, Jajamyun received 900,000 cash from the tenants. So since cash collections was given here, malamang your rental revenue would be the accrual rental revenue. Okay? So let's now identify, convert our cash amount, no, received for the collections, okay, to an accrual rental revenue. So for the cash received, okay, we have 900,000. Then kagaya ng in-explain ko kanina, our beginning receivable, okay, which is the 2020, okay, the beginning for 2021, okay, would be deducted because it was received in 2021 but its revenue refers to last year. Okay, and then your rental receivables during the year, okay, was earned during the year but not yet collected, so it will be added. Your unearned rentals of last year, so nakolekta mo yan last year, pero na-earned mo siya during 2021, so i-add po natin. And then your unearned rentals during the year, so nakolekta natin siya, so mama siya sa cash received, but it will be earned next year pa. So deduct the 340,000. That's why our accrual rent revenue for 2021 is 1,008,000. Okay? So are we clear on this class? Do you have any questions? Please let me know on our respective chat boxes. All right, very good. So I hope na nasusundan pa po ako ha. Konting-konti na lang. Okay? So another formula to convert a cash basis record to accrual basis is regarding income tax expense. Okay, so in our cash basis, our expense for income tax is referring to the cash paid. Okay, so to convert it, we need to consider the following. So we have the income tax payables. Okay, so we're in the beginning. Income tax payable, as you all know, last year pa naging expense yan. payable yan, babayaran mo during the current year. So binayaran kasama sa cash paid pero hindi naman expense during the current period. So deduction po siya. Okay? Then our income tax payable at the end of the period. So that means it was incurred during the current year but not yet paid. So it will become an expense for accrual basis. Now, others po no to be considered would be about the deferred taxes. Okay, so kung babalikan natin ang naging discussion ninyo ng IAS number 12, okay, so deferred taxes arises okay from what? Temporary differences. So first of which would be deferred tax asset. So ang deferred tax asset ay nanggagaling saan? Very good. So nanggagaling siya sa tinatawag natin na deductible temporary differences or even your operating loss carry over or carry forward or the NOLCO. Diba? So yung deferred tax beginning natin, so last year, okay, ano bang entry ng deferred tax pala pag nag-a-adjust tayo? So that's actually debit, deferred tax asset, credit po tayo ng income tax expense or benefit, di ba? Yun yung entry ninyo. So nag-credit sa income tax. Last year yon kasi this is the beginning. So kung ito ay nag-reverse, no, expecting to be reverse, okay, then it will be an additional expense. So ayan, i-add po natin yung deferred tax asset beginning. But if it is ending, kagaya nga po ng pinakita ko dito, if this is ending na in-adjust during the current year, okay, then it represents a benefit. So, kabawasan po yun sa ating income tax expense. Okay? Then, let's finish this with deferred tax liability. So, on deferred tax liabilities naman po, if you have remembered IAS 12, no, it is to be recorded once we have yung taxable temporary difference naman po. Okay, so that taxable temporary difference would be recorded or adjusted debit income tax expense deferred. Okay, pero in totality, that's part of the total income tax expense. Okay, and then we have also to credit deferred tax liability. Okay? So kung beginning of the period yan, the expense was relating to last year. Di ba? So since mari-reverse yan, pag na-reverse ang deferred tax liability, so debit deferred tax liability, credit income tax expense, so it will become a deduction. Okay? And then for the adjusting naman at the end of the period, no, the ending would be an additional income tax expense. Okay, so now the total income tax expense, whether current man yan or deferred, is equal to this amount. Okay? So ayan po, no. Sir, paano pag walang deferred taxes? Eh di, masaya, no? You need only to check for the income tax payables. Okay, pero pag may deferred taxes, then ayan po. Okay? So again, if you do have questions, please let me know. Okay? Sige. So, iwanan muna natin saglit si income tax expense. Then, let's proceed naman with interests. Okay, so let's start with the cash received from interests. Okay, so that's the cash basis interest revenue. Okay, and then of course you consider the interest receivable. Okay, so dito po nakita niyo ending yung nauna, no? So the ending interest receivable is coming from the accrual during the current period. So na-earned natin siya but not yet collected. So add po natin to arrive at the interest revenue under accrual basis. Then the beginning interest receivable was already collected during the current year but the revenue relates to last year, kaya deduction po. And also do not forget that there will also be amortization of discounts or premium, no? So pag nag-amortize tayo ng discount, ano bang entry natin if we amortize the discount po natin? So debit tayo ng cash. Okay, kung babalikan niyo yung debt investment at amortized cost or fair value through other comprehensive income, so that will be cash. Debit tayo ng debt investment and credit tayo ng interest revenue. Okay, so kaya naka-add po yung amortization of discount. Kasi ito, pag dinebit ang debt investment during amortization, that means we have a discount amortization. Then, kapag premium naman po ang ina-amortized, so we have to debit cash actually. Then, credit ng debt investment. Okay, kabawasan sa debt investment yung amortization of premium, and credit po tayo ng interest revenue. So it reduces the amount of the revenue that or the cash that was being received to arrive at our interest revenue under accrual basis. Okay, so that will be our interest revenue. Okay, so any questions or clarifications? All right. So um, let's try to apply some of this, no, using some examples. Okay. So let's have example number 6. So you are being asked in this problem, no? So the total income tax expense for the year. Sir, bakit hindi ko nakikita yung beginning and ending? So iniba ko lang, no? I'm just going to give you the increase or decrease. So the following information are excerpt from the books of Corn Dog Incorporated for 2021. So you have the income tax paid. Okay, that is the cash basis na expense natin. Then there was an increase in income tax payable. So kung naalala ninyo, beginning and ending, so ibig sabihin mas malaki yung ending kesa sa beginning, di ba? So which means that there was an additional expense. Then you have also an increase in deferred tax asset and a decrease in deferred tax liability. So let me show you the computation. So we started with the income tax paid na 1 million. Okay, the increase in income tax payable is added since pag tumaas po, ibig sabihin mas mataas yung ending, which is an addition kanina, 'di ba, compared with the ending na naka-minus. Sorry, mali, baliktad. So mas mataas yung ending, okay? Mas mataas yung ending kanina na naka-add kesa doon sa beginning income tax payable na mina-minus. Okay? So, ayan. Kaya naka-add siya. Then, the increase in deferred tax asset. So, pag nag-increase yung deferred tax asset, it means it was an additional income tax benefit or credit to income tax expense. Kaya kabawasan po yan ng 96,000. Okay? Then lastly, we have a decrease in deferred tax liability. So pag nag-decrease ang deferred tax liability, so nagkaroon ng reversal. As mentioned to you kanina, ang reversal ng deferred tax liability is debit deferred tax liability and credit income tax expense deferred. Okay, so kabawasan po yon. That's why our total income tax expense was 883,000. Okay, so any questions or clarifications, please let me know. Okay, so continue lang po tayo. So we have some more examples. Actually, tatlo na lang po. So the following information are excerpt naman from Fishcake Company for 2021, and you are asked about the interest revenue. So let us apply yung diniscuss kanina about interest revenue. So the interest received was 100,000, increase in interest receivable. So mas malaki po yung ending, okay, kesa sa beginning na interest receivable. So it means to be added. Then we have a credit to the debt investment in the amortization of amortized cost investment. So anong ibig sabihin yan? Pag naka-credit yon, so it means this is an amortization of a premium. Okay, so for our interest revenue, so we start with the cash basis interest revenue, okay, or cash received for the interest. Then the increase in interest receivable, as mentioned a while ago, no? So it was an increase in the receivable, which give us an idea na mas malaki yung ending kaysa sa beginning, at meron po tayong accrual ng what? Interests. Okay, so that's an additional interest revenue for accrual basis. And then for the debt investment amortization na credited, so as mentioned kanina, pag na-credit yung debt investment, that represents a premium, no? So that would be a deduction. So it will decrease the cash received po natin to arrive at the interest revenue, and our interest revenue, okay, for 2021 based on the data given was 130,000. Okay? So any questions or clarifications, again, please let me know. Okay? So I am adding some, some ako na some, no? So two more examples. okay, to wrap up our discussion for cash to accrual basis, and then we will be continuing some problems no on our next meeting. Okay. So this is now naman po about PPE. Okay, so you're being asked if the additional equipment was purchased for cash, how much is acquired office equipment during 2021, and magkano daw po yung depreciation of office equipment for 2021. So you are given the following data to office equipment of Tokbyoki Corporation for 2020, okay, for 2021. Okay, so you have 2020 at saka 2021. Okay. So, office equipment costing 130,000 was sold for 121,000, resulting in a gain of 13,000. So for easy computation nitong mga tanong dito, no, we will be presenting it via the account. Okay, so we plot the beginning and ending muna. So first we have the office equipment which was given na beginning of the year, which is representing the 2020 in the data given, 345,000. Then we have um, the ending balance na 375,000 for 2021. Then we have also the beginning of the accumulated depreciation na 158,000 and the ending was 160,000. So bago natin mabuo yung T-account to arrive on our answers for the problem, okay, so let's try to reconstruct the journal entry for the sale. Okay, so in reconstructing, no, so we debit the cash, which is the amount received in selling it na 121,000. Okay, balikan ko yung accumulated depreciation debited. So your office equipment was credited at a cost of 130,000 and then the gain on disposal na 13,000. So if you're going to interpolate, the accumulated depreciation for the disposed office equipment was 22,000. So kailangan natin tong entry na to complete our T accounts, okay, bago natin ma-compute yung mga data given or data being asked. So you have the disposal na credit po yung office equipment na 130,000. Okay, so wala naman ng other data here, no? So you can reconstruct. So 375,000 plus 130,000 na disposed minus the beginning balance. So magkano po yung ating office equipment being purchased? Okay, calculate. All right, very good. So your office equipment purchased for cash was 160,000. Okay, so that's the answer for the first question. Now, how much is the acquired office equipment? So it's 160,000. Okay. And then the next question was the depreciation. So we have kanina debited an accumulated depreciation here. Okay, so which will be debited for the disposed. Okay, so we can now derive the depreciation expense, which is representing yung na credit in the accumulated depreciation account. So the ending balance of the accumulated depreciation plus nyo po yung na-dispose for the accumulated depreciation, then minus the beginning balance. So working it back, your depreciation expense, which is credited under accumulated depreciation for the year 2021, amounting to 24,000. Okay? So are we clear on that? So the answer for the second question was actually 24,000. Okay, so alam ko naman bihasang-bihasa na kayo dyan. Pero again, if you do have questions, please let me know. Okay? So we are now down to our last example for this discussion. So let's have example number 9. Okay? Ay, lumabas na yung sagot. Anyways, the question was, under the accrual method, how much should Tonkatsu report as net income or loss on December 31, 2021? So Tonkatsu Incorporated maintains its accounting record on cash basis but restates its financial statements to accrual method of accounting. Tonkatsu had 1,200,000 cash basis pre-tax net income for 2021. So doon tayo magsisimula, no? 1,200,000. Then the following information pertains to Tonkatsu for the year ended December 31, 2021 and 2020. Be careful lang po ha, make sure that you check properly yung label kasi unlike kanina baliktad, 'di ba? 2020, 2021. Ito naman 21 which is the ending and then the 2020 which is the beginning. So you have the receivables, okay, and then you have the payables. So dahil net income na po yung tanong, so bale una with regards to the receivables. Okay, so your accounts receivable 2020, it means it was collected during 2021. Okay, but the income relates to 2020 should be deducted in the cash basis pre-tax income. Samantalang yung ending balance naman po ng accounts receivable na na-earned during the current year, okay, which represents the ending balance, will be added to arrive at our net income for accrual basis. On the other hand, with regards naman accounts payable, class, ito ay net income ha. So baliktad yung effect ng accounts payable. Kanina in our previous examples, we talk about yung expenses, di ba? Ito po ay net income na po ang effect. So with regards to the accounts payable ng 2020 beginning, so it means that, okay, it was an expense of what? Last year. Expense siya ng last year, kailan binayaran? Ngayong taon. So in cash basis, no, in cash basis, that payment was already been deducted. So binawas siya kasi naging payment siya eh. Pero since this is an accrual basis and the expense relates to last year, okay, so it needs to be added back. Ina-add back natin kasi naibawas siya na expense under cash basis. Okay? While under accrual basis naman po, accounts payable at the ending of the period will be an additional expense. Okay, so kaya deduction po siya ng 225,000. So summarizing everything, our pre-tax net income under accrual basis is 1,425,000. So yun po yung sagot for this example number 9. Okay? So I hope that this is clear ha. So tignan ninyo yung tanong, no? So it does not necessarily na diniscuss ko kanina ito yung format, ganun yung pagkakaintindi, yun na po palagi yung gagamitin. No, because again, it depends upon the context of the question. If it is expense, then okay, ganun yung gagawin kanina. And then if it is net income, then reverse nung mga effects kanina. Okay? So we will be discussing more of these problems, okay, or example of these problems, no, in our next meeting. Okay, so if you do have questions, please let me know on our respective chat boxes or even comment your questions in this video lecture. Okay, so I hope that you have learned something and I'll see you all on our next meeting. Okay, thank you very much. Kamsahamnida, sayonara, see you next meeting. Bye-bye.